My name is Sarah, and I'm a 28-year-old graphic designer living in Portland, Oregon. For 3 years, I believed I had built an incredible life with my husband, James, a 30-year-old software engineer. After months of hoping and planning, we were finally expecting our first baby. I was 8 months along, glowing with anticipation, surrounded by the people I loved most at my baby shower. The venue was decorated in soft yellows and grays. Balloons floated near the ceiling, and a beautiful cake sat centerpiece on the refreshment table. My mother had spent weeks planning every detail, and my closest friends had traveled from different cities to be there. The room buzzed with laughter and excitement. I truly felt like the most fortunate woman in the world. As I moved through the crowd, accepting hugs and opening gifts, I noticed James standing near the corner. His expression was distant, almost detached. I told myself he was nervous about fatherhood, that the reality of becoming a parent was finally hitting him. I smiled at him reassuringly, hoping to ease whatever anxiety he might be feeling. Midway through the celebration, James approached me with a large envelope. My heart warmed at first, thinking he had prepared something special, perhaps a heartfelt letter about our journey or a surprise gift for the baby. Everyone's attention turned to us as I carefully opened the envelope, my smile bright and trusting. My fingers went numb. Inside weren't loving words or precious keepsakes. They were legal documents, divorce papers. The room seemed to tilt sideways. Gasps erupted around me, followed by shocked whispers that grew louder with each passing second. I looked up at James, searching his face for any sign that this was some terrible mistake or cruel joke. His eyes were cold, his jaw set. "I can't do this anymore, Sarah. I'm done pretending. I want out." The words felt like physical blows. My chest tightened, making it hard to breathe. I gripped the papers, my hands trembling violently. This was supposed to be a celebration of new life, of family, of love. Instead, it had become my most humiliating moment, witnessed by everyone who mattered to me. My best friend, Maya, was the first to reach me, wrapping her arms around my shoulders. My brother, Chris, pushed through the crowd and positioned himself between James and me, his face red with anger. James didn't even look back. He simply turned and walked out, leaving me standing there with divorce papers in one hand and my pregnant belly in the other. The party dissolved into chaos. Some guests left quickly, too uncomfortable to stay. Others surrounded me with tearful hugs and words of support that I couldn't fully process. My mother tried to hold herself together for my sake, but I could see the devastation in her eyes. My father stood rigid, his fists clenched, watching the door through which James had disappeared. Somehow, I managed to thank the remaining guests and send them home. When the last person left, I collapsed onto a chair, finally allowing the tears to come. Maya stayed by my side, holding my hand in silence. There were no words that could make this better. My entire world had just shattered in front of an audience, and I had no idea how to pick up the pieces. That evening, Maya drove me home to the house James and I shared, though it no longer felt like mine. The nursery we'd painted together mocked me from down the hall. The life I thought we were building had been nothing but an illusion, and I was left to face a terrifying truth. I would be bringing my baby into a broken family. As I lay in bed that night, feeling my baby kick inside me, I made a silent promise. No matter what James had done, no matter how much pain I was in, I would be strong for this child. I would not let his father's cruelty define our story. If this story resonates with you, please support our channel by subscribing, hitting the like button, and sharing with others who might need to hear it. Your support means everything to us and helps us continue bringing you these stories. Don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss an update. The next morning arrived too quickly. I woke up exhausted, my eyes swollen from crying, my body aching from the stress. Maya had slept on the couch and was already making tea when I shuffled into the kitchen. She hugged me tightly without saying anything. She knew words wouldn't help. Over the next few days, I forced myself to function. I couldn't afford to fall apart completely, not with a baby on the way. Maya practically moved in, making sure I ate, drank water, and attended my prenatal appointments. My family visited constantly, offering whatever support they could. My mother brought meals, my father fixed things around the house, and Chris checked on me multiple times a day. James hadn't returned to collect his belongings, and I couldn't stand seeing his things everywhere. His jacket on the hook, his coffee mug in the cupboard, his running shoes by the door. Each item felt like a painful reminder of a life that had been stolen from me. I decided to pack everything up. Maya helped me pull boxes from the garage. We worked methodically through the closets and drawers, folding clothes and wrapping items in newspaper. It was therapeutic in a strange way, physically removing him from my space. As we cleared out his home office, I noticed a locked drawer in his desk. Something compelled me to find the key. When I finally opened it, my breath caught. Inside were credit card statements showing charges at hotels throughout the city, dating back over a year. There were printed text messages, emails, and even handwritten notes. My hand shook as I read them. They were from someone named Kelly, a woman who worked at his tech company. The messages were intimate, filled with affection and future plans. As I continued reading, my stomach turned. Kelly mentioned being excited about their upcoming baby. She was pregnant too. The timeline matched almost perfectly with my own pregnancy. I sat on the floor, surrounded by evidence of a double life I never knew existed. James hadn't just had an affair. He'd been building an entire separate family, while I trusted him completely. Every hotel receipt represented a night he'd lied to me. Every message proved he'd been planning to leave long before he handed me those papers. Maya read over my shoulder, her face pale with shock. "Sarah, I can't believe he did this. But he's been doing this." I felt numb. The betrayal was so deep, so complete, that I almost couldn't process it. He'd been living two lives, making promises to two women, creating two families. And he'd chosen to destroy mine in the most public, humiliating way possible. That night, after Maya went to sleep, I sat alone with those documents spread before me. The pain was overwhelming, but underneath it, something else was growing. Anger. A fierce, burning determination to ensure he didn't get away with this. He thought he could discard me like I meant nothing, but I wouldn't let him. I began organizing everything methodically. I photographed each receipt, copied every message, and created a timeline of his deception. If James wanted a divorce, he would get one, but it would be on my terms, not his. My baby kicked hard against my ribs, as if to remind me why I had to fight. This wasn't just about me anymore. It was about protecting my child and ensuring we had the security and stability James was trying to take away. I called my brother the next morning. Chris worked in finance and understood money better than anyone I knew. "I need your help," I told him. "I need to know everything about James's finances." Chris didn't hesitate. Within days, he discovered that James had been moving money into separate accounts, hiding assets, and preparing to leave me with as little as possible. The betrayal went even deeper than I'd imagined. He'd been planning this for months, maybe longer. But now I had proof, and I had the determination to use it. At 37 weeks, everything changed again. The contractions started late in the evening, sharp and unmistakable. At first, I tried to breathe through them, hoping they were just practice contractions. But within an hour, they intensified and came closer together. Fear gripped me. Not just the fear of childbirth, but the fear of facing it alone. Maya drove me to the hospital, her hand steady on the wheel while mine gripped the door handle. "You've got this," she kept saying. "You're the strongest person I know." The hospital staff admitted me quickly. The labor room felt cold and clinical, nothing like I'd imagined when James and I had toured the facility months earlier. I'd pictured him beside me, holding my hand, coaching me through the pain. Instead, I had Maya, and I was grateful for her presence even as my heart ached for what should have been. Hours passed. The pain was excruciating, waves of agony that made me question whether I could survive this. A nurse asked if I wanted her to call the father. I gave her James's number, still holding on to some small hope that he'd come, that he'd at least be there for his child's birth. He never answered. Later, I learned he'd been with Kelly that night, completely unreachable while I brought his son into the world. Maya never left my side. She held my hand through every contraction, wiped my forehead, and whispered encouragement when I felt like giving up. After what felt like an eternity, I heard the most beautiful sound, my baby's first cry. The nurse placed him on my chest, and everything else faded away. My son, tiny and perfect, with a tuft of dark hair and the smallest fingers I'd ever seen. Tears streamed down my face as I whispered, "Hello, Lucas. I'm your mom." Holding Lucas filled me with a love so powerful it overwhelmed everything else. All the pain, the betrayal, the humiliation, it all became background noise compared to the feeling of his small body against mine. Maya cried too, kissing my forehead and telling me how proud she was. That night, watching Lucas sleep in his hospital bassinet, I made him a promise. I would give him the best life possible. I would protect him from the chaos his father had created, and I would never let James's selfishness diminish what we could have together. 2 weeks after Lucas was born, the divorce proceedings officially began. My attorney, Mrs. Patterson, was a sharp woman in her 50s with decades of family law experience. She'd reviewed all my evidence and assured me we had a strong case. Walking into that courtroom was terrifying. James sat across the aisle with his lawyer, looking confident and composed, as if this were just another business meeting. Kelly wasn't there. Apparently, her pregnancy had complications, or so he claimed. James's attorney argued that he deserved joint custody, painting him as a devoted father who wanted to be involved in Lucas's life. The irony wasn't lost on me. This was the same man who hadn't answered his phone when his son was being born, who'd abandoned us at a baby shower in front of everyone we knew. When it was our turn, Mrs. Patterson presented everything methodically. The hotel receipts showing a year-long affair. The messages proving he'd been building another family. The financial records Chris had uncovered, showing how James had hidden money and assets. And the hospital documentation confirming he'd been unreachable during Lucas's birth. James's confident expression began to crack. His lawyer tried to redirect, arguing that personal failings didn't necessarily impact parenting ability, but the judge's expression grew stern as more evidence piled up. The testimony about Lucas's birth hit particularly hard. When the judge learned James had been with his mistress while I labored alone, something shifted in the room. This wasn't just about infidelity anymore. This was about character, responsibility, and what kind of father James truly was. I sat quietly throughout most of the hearing, letting the evidence speak for itself. I didn't need to be dramatic or emotional. The facts were damning enough. James had made his choices, and now he would face the consequences. As we left the courtroom that day, James looked shaken. For the first time since this nightmare began, I saw uncertainty in his eyes. He'd thought he could control everything, manipulate the outcome, and walk away with minimal responsibility. But I was proving him wrong. The day of the final hearing arrived faster than I expected. I walked into the courtroom with Mrs. Patterson, carrying a folder containing photos of Lucas. I needed that reminder of why I was fighting, not for revenge, but for my son's future. James entered with renewed confidence, his lawyer beside him. He clearly believed things would work out in his favor, that somehow he'd maintain control over the situation. I watched him sit down with that familiar arrogance, and instead of feeling intimidated, I felt calm. I knew what evidence we had. I knew the truth. The judge reviewed the case thoroughly, examining every document and considering both sides' arguments. James's lawyer made final pleas for shared custody and minimal financial obligation, emphasizing James's income needs to provide stability for his growing family. The phrase stung. He meant his family with Kelly, as if Lucas and I were already forgotten. Then the judge delivered the ruling. Full custody of Lucas was awarded to me. James's request for joint custody was denied based on his demonstrated lack of commitment and responsibility. He was ordered to pay substantial child support, contribute to Lucas's healthcare and education expenses, and maintain life insurance with Lucas as the beneficiary. Additionally, I was granted full ownership of our house in Portland. The judge noted that stability for the child was paramount, and removing Lucas from his home would be unnecessarily disruptive. I sat perfectly still, letting the words wash over me. Relief, vindication, and something resembling peace settled in my chest. This wasn't about destroying James. It was about protecting Lucas and ensuring we had the security we deserved. James's face went pale. His confident posture collapsed as the implications hit him. He not only lost custody, but he now faced financial obligations that would significantly impact the life he'd planned with Kelly. His lawyer whispered urgently to him, but there was nothing left to argue. The ruling was final. As we left the courtroom, Mrs. Patterson squeezed my shoulder. "You did well," she said quietly. "You stayed strong, and you protected your son. That's what matters." I nodded, feeling the weight of months of stress finally beginning to lift. James walked out behind us, his shoulders slumped, no longer the man who'd confidently handed me divorce papers at my baby shower. He'd gambled everything on his selfishness, and he'd lost. Over the following weeks, I focused on creating a stable routine with Lucas. My graphic design business, which I'd neglected during the chaos, began to thrive again. I'd started taking on freelance clients during my pregnancy, and now I expanded, bringing in my brother Chris as a business partner. He handled the financial side while I focused on creative work. Working from home allowed me to be present for Lucas while building something meaningful. Each project I completed, each client I satisfied, reminded me that I was capable of succeeding on my own. I didn't need James. I never had. My parents visited regularly, delighting in their grandson. My mother would hold Lucas for hours, singing to him and telling him stories. My father installed new locks on my doors and updated the security system, his way of protecting us. Maya remained a constant presence, celebrating every small victory and supporting me through the occasional difficult day. One afternoon, while working on a design project with Lucas napping nearby, I received a message from an unknown number. It was from Kelly. "You destroyed everything," it read. "James can barely afford to support us now because of what you took from him." I stared at the message for a long moment, then deleted it without responding. Kelly's anger wasn't my problem. She'd chosen to build a relationship with a married man, and now she was facing the consequences of that choice, just as James was facing his. I wouldn't engage. I wouldn't defend myself. I let my actions and the court's decision speak for themselves. That evening, I held Lucas close, breathing in his baby's scent and feeling his heartbeat against my chest. "We're going to be okay," I whispered to him. "Better than okay. We're going to be happy." And for the first time since that devastating day at my baby shower, I truly believed it. 6 months after the divorce was finalized, life had transformed in ways I couldn't have imagined during those dark early days. My graphic design business had grown beyond my expectations. Chris and I had established a solid client base, and we'd even hired an assistant to help manage the workload. What started as a way to support myself had become something I was genuinely proud of. Lucas was thriving. At 6 months old, he was a happy, curious baby who smiled at everyone and filled our home with joy. Watching him grow, his first laugh, his attempts to roll over, the way he grabbed at everything within reach, reminded me daily why I'd fought so hard. He deserved a stable, loving environment, and I was giving him exactly that. My house felt like a true home now. I'd redecorated, removing all traces of James and replacing them with photos of Lucas, my family, and memories worth keeping. The nursery I'd once been afraid to enter was now my favorite room, where I'd rock Lucas to sleep while humming lullabies. One Saturday afternoon, I decided to host a small gathering to celebrate Lucas's 6-month milestone. I invited my closest friends and family, the people who'd supported me through everything. The house filled with laughter, and Lucas was passed from person to person, each one marveling at how much he'd grown. As the party was in full swing, there was an unexpected knock at the door. I opened it to find James and Kelly standing there. My stomach tightened instinctively, but I reminded myself that this was my home, my space, my victory. "We weren't invited," James said, his voice lacking its former confidence. "No, you weren't," I replied calmly. "But you're here now. Come in if you want to see Lucas briefly, then please leave." They entered awkwardly. Kelly looked uncomfortable, her hand resting on her noticeably pregnant belly. She was further along now, probably 7 or 8 months. The room grew quiet as people noticed them, whispers spreading through the crowd. I didn't make a scene. I simply continued being the gracious host, tending to my guests while keeping an eye on the unwelcome visitors. After a few minutes of uncomfortable silence, I decided it was time to make an announcement. I stood near the fireplace with Lucas in my arms, and the room quieted. "Thank you all for coming to celebrate Lucas today," I began, my voice steady and warm. "These past months haven't been easy, but they've taught me something invaluable. We're stronger than we think, and we can build beautiful lives from difficult beginnings." I paused, looking around at the supportive faces watching me. I've also started a new chapter professionally. Chris and I have grown our design business significantly, and we're proud to announce we're opening a physical studio space next month. It's been a dream of mine for years, and I'm finally making it happen. Applause erupted from my friends and family. My mother beamed with pride, and Chris raised his glass in a toast. I smiled, feeling genuine happiness wash over me. "Sometimes," I continued, "the best response to betrayal isn't bitterness or revenge. It's success. It's building a life so full of purpose and joy that the past loses its power over you." I didn't look directly at James as I said this, but I knew he heard every word. The message was clear. I'd moved beyond him. His attempts to break me had instead built me into someone stronger. James's face reddened. He exchanged a tense glance with Kelly, who looked increasingly upset. Within minutes, they made excuses and left. I watched them go without emotion, then returned my attention to the people who actually mattered, my true family and friends. After everyone else had gone home and Lucas was asleep, I sat in the quiet house reflecting on how far I'd come. The woman who'd been publicly humiliated at her baby shower felt like a different person now. That woman had been devastated, broken, unsure if she could survive. But I had survived. More than that, I'd built something beautiful from the wreckage. My business was thriving. My son was healthy and happy. My relationships with my family and friends had deepened through the hardship we'd weathered together. I had a home that was truly mine, filled with love and laughter instead of lies and betrayal. A few weeks later, I was walking through downtown Portland with Lucas in his stroller when I saw James across the street. He looked tired, worn down in a way I'd never seen before. Kelly was beside him, visibly pregnant, but appearing stressed and unhappy. They were arguing about something, her gestures sharp and his responses defensive. For a brief moment, James's eyes met mine. I wondered if he expected confrontation, or perhaps pity. Instead, I simply adjusted Lucas's blanket, smiled at my son, and continued walking. There was nothing left to say to James. No words that needed to be spoken, no anger that required expression. My silence, my peace, my obvious contentment. Those spoke louder than anything I could have said. That evening, I wrote in the journal I'd started keeping after Lucas was born. I documented the journey from that terrible day at the baby shower to this moment of genuine happiness. I wanted Lucas to understand someday that difficult beginnings don't determine our endings. That betrayal can wound us deeply, but doesn't have to define us. Your father made choices that hurt us, I wrote. But those choices also forced me to find strength I didn't know I had. They pushed me to build a life I'm proud of. And most importantly, they brought you into my world. And you, my sweet Lucas, are the greatest gift I've ever received. I closed the journal and went to check on my sleeping son. Standing in his doorway, watching his chest rise and fall peacefully, I felt complete. Not because I'd gotten revenge on James or because I'd won in court, but because I discovered something more valuable, my own resilience and the pure, uncomplicated love between a mother and her child. James had tried to destroy me, but instead, he'd revealed just how strong I could be. And for that, in a strange way, I was almost grateful. Thank you so much for following Sarah's complete journey from heartbreak to triumph. If her story inspired you, please support our channel by subscribing, giving this video a thumbs up, and sharing it with others who might need encouragement. Your likes, comments, and shares help us reach more people with stories of resilience and hope. Don't forget to hit that notification bell so you never miss our upcoming stories. Remember, You are stronger than you think, and you can overcome more than you imagine. Until next time, stay strong.